Hello and welcome once again to Books Wale Bhaiya. I'm Abhishek. Well, it's that time of the year again as the year is ending, and I'll talk about the books I liked reading most during this year 2022. I made a similar video for the books I read in 2021 towards the end of December only last year, and I got very good response for that. So, well, thank you very much for watching that video, and let's see what I read in 2022 and I liked the most. Keep watching. The first book I'm going to talk about is Shoot, Die, Fly, Stories of Great Adventure from the Indian Army, authored by Rachna Bisht Rawat. So Rachna is a wife of an army man. She has authored more than 10 books already, all related to the Indian Army. And this book actually talks about what life in the army is all about. And please keep in mind, as this book explains, life in the army is not only about fighting a war or a battle, but it has got to do with lot many other things, all related to adventure and grit. So this book tells you what kind of training do army people get, what kind of adventures or rescue missions they are involved in. So we'll hear from the army personnel themselves tasks such as rescuing stranded people on a mountain with a helicopter where you can just carry one or two persons maximum, where you're intentionally carrying less fuel because that increases the weight. So you're putting your own life at risk just to rescue people stranded in places like a mountain. You hear stories of how army men rescued little kids which fell into a bow well as deep as 25 or 30 feet. And mind you, these stories, which are while very inspiring, they are not all about adventure. You can say all about fun. It's about grit. It's about determination. It's about bravery. Because we also have stories wherein a soldier fell about 8,500 feet without a parachute. I repeat, a soldier who fell from almost 8,500 feet without a parachute. An army man who lost a leg while fighting and yet through a prosthetic leg ran half marathon. Again, I repeat, he ran half marathon with a prosthetic leg, or you can say an artificial leg. These are the stories of adventure, determination, bravery, something which I believe only an army man can have, that too in plenty. And I seem to remember I read somewhere that this book inspires you to actually join the army. So if any youngster is watching this video, I would like to say yes, if you are thinking of joining the army or if you have an inclination towards joining the army, do read this book. Because if this book does not inspire you to join the army and serve the nation and to live the life of an army man, nothing else will. One book I strongly recommend. The next book which I am talking about is also an army. It's called The Battle of Rezang by Kulpreet Yadav. Kulpreet ji is a well-known author. He has authored about 14 books. He served in Indian Coast Guards for about 20 years and now is a full-time writer. So this book is about the India-China War of 1962. And yes, we all know that India did lose that war. However, within that war, there were several stories of courage and bravery by our soldiers which needed to be told. And it is one of those battles which Kulpreet ji talks about, the Battle of Rezang, which was fought at Rezang Pass in Ladakh, wherein one of the battalions of our army fought valiantly against the Chinese. So the story is about 110 soldiers from the army were facing more than 1,000 Chinese soldiers, and while almost all soldiers did lose their lives, they gave a very befitting reply to the Chinese incursion, something which I believe in the Chinese army would remember, that what they might have taken it to be a very simple task, the Indian army fought it valiantly. And it is believed that this battalion, without any proper communication, without any proper resources, without any proper ammunition, food or anything, so basically they fought with in a way nothing or with very less resources, they were able to hold more than 1,000 Chinese soldiers. And it is strongly believed that had it not been for these brave army men, India might have lost Ladakh, the entire Ladakh region, to China. So this is one story of courage and sacrifice which must be told. In fact, it's surprising that there is no other book, at least as per my understanding, there's no other book which talks about the Battle of Rezang in detail. This is perhaps the first proper book ever written on this subject. Nonetheless, it bears the testimony of the sacrifices of our soldiers, wherein India did lose the entire war, but there was something which is there to remember. And as I said, just like the first book I talked about, this book also serves an inspiration for you to join the army and serve the nation. So, well, hats off to Kulpreet ji for bringing this topic up. And yes, another book I definitely recommend. So next book is Never Split the Difference, Negotiating as if your life dependent on it by Chris Voss. So this book is about negotiation as the title suggests, and the author is a former FBI negotiator, and he has negotiated with terrorists, kidnappers, and whatnot. So you may think that why am I recommending this book? What does an FBI negotiator who dealt with kidnappers or terrorists has got to do with me? I am not getting into any such thing. Well, the lessons Chris has in this book are indeed very useful, very practical, and drawing on his experience, you can use this knowledge in practically all form of negotiations. And in fact, it is at the beginning of this book that he helps you understand the power of negotiating well. Even if you think that I'm not in a job or in a business where negotiation is required, he makes you understand importantly that negotiation as a skill is required practically everywhere, whether you are dealing with a kidnapper, or whether you're dealing with your own family members, or whether you're dealing with your boss for a pay raise, or you're looking for a job, or no matter what. And he has, basis of his experience of more than 20 years in negotiating, he talks about several important concepts, primarily which is understanding the other person's mind, understanding their primal urges as to what exactly they are looking for, and on the basis of that giving a pitch or putting forward your point of view, which is important in the negotiation. So there are a lot of practical advices, and that is the beauty of the book. So don't get thinking that okay, this is by a hostile negotiator, so it has not much for me. I believe the tools and tricks which are there in this book are very easy to understand, and at the same time they are very very powerful for negotiations. And the beauty of this is what you learn, you can actually quickly implement it. So there is a caveat here. I have read the book, but I have not started implementing it yet. But a lot of people who actually say that these ideas are so simple and so powerful, and that they have worked upon these ideas in negotiations, and boy, it did yield results. So if you're looking for better negotiations, irrespective of the work you're involved in, this is one book I strongly recommend. The next one, well, India, Bharat and Pakistan by Jay Sai Deepak. Okay, I will not waste any time in telling you who Jay Sai Deepak is. If you are into books, even if you don't read non-fiction, it's not possible that being in India I would not have heard of Jay Sai Deepak. He has become a sort of household name after his first book last year, which dealt with India, that is Bharat, which dealt with the concept of European coloniality, and wherein he explained that what coloniality exactly was, what colonization exactly was, how in a way we are still colonized, and its importance on the Indic culture. So therein, in this book, India, Bharat and Pakistan, he moves a step forward. He talks about Middle Eastern coloniality and how that led to, first of all, rise of separatist tendencies, the partition of Bengal, and eventually the partition of India, and the great damage it did to the Indic consciousness and Indic civilization. If you read the first book, and which I anyway recommend you to go through before starting the second book, if you read the first book, you'll be able to understand very clearly what I'm talking about. And importantly, this book touches on the movements which have happened till 1924, and how various movements already occurring in certain parts of India, which were the result of Middle Eastern coloniality, it gave a further rise to separatist tendencies, and we did witness the partition of Bengal. We did witness some of, you can say, conflicts building up between various religious groups. And after that, he as he mentions that the Middle Eastern coloniality and the British coloniality, they kind of worked in tandem, and with Muslim into reforms, which gave rise to electorates on the basis of religion, further aggravated the cause of the partition of Bharat. Just like Science First book, this is an extremely well-researched, extremely detailed book. So mind you, this is not at all for the casual reader. It is for those who are serious about reading history and want to understand various events as we are seeing today, what exactly were the causes behind it. But one book I strongly recommend. The next one is Wartime, The World in Danger by Rajiv Dogra ji. So Rajiv Dogra ji is a career diplomat. I have reviewed this book in detail in one of my previous videos as well, and yes, this is one of the books I liked most in 2022. So Rajiv ji, drawing upon his experience as a diplomat and as a columnist, as a writer, he has authored many books, he writes for several publications, newspapers. So he is talking about the geopolitical scenario currently, and as I've said, this is a kind of mini encyclopedia on geopolitics, what's happening in the world, and importantly, what is likely to happen in the next 10 to 20 years. And Rajiv is very blunt when he says that yes, the world is likely to witness more wars, more military conflicts in the next, say, 10 to 20 years. There could be a war between China and India, between China, India and Pakistan, China and Taiwan. It could be any of these. But yes, we are seeing a scenario wherein the situation makes us believe that yes, there are likely to be more wars in the future. And after this, he talks about various countries which are important on the world map by their size or their geography. So, for example, China, whether India, United States. So, for example, China, it says that yes, it is indeed going to be a global power, and no one can actually stop it through the various huge investments China is making into building physical infrastructure, into artificial intelligence and whatnot. But China definitely has eyes set on the global stage. Interestingly, he says that that is not to say that US is going to lose its importance. It may lose its hegemony, but it will not lose its importance anytime soon, and it will remain a dominant player. And he somehow suggests the same for Russia as well, that Russia again will keep on playing an important role in the world order. He makes observations on India as well, that he is at least not seeing India occupying the center stage in global geopolitics. Is India not becoming a very dominant country in the world stage? However, India has its own importance to the world, which will of course remain intact. So it is these kind of insights that Rajivji provides in this book. There's also a chapter on artificial intelligence and how it is going to determine geopolitics in the future. So if you are looking to basically understand how the world will look like in the next couple of years, how different countries are placed, well, this is the book you should be reading. Chip War by Chris Miller. Well, we are talking of artificial intelligence, we are talking of software, information technology, and whatnot. These are the buzzwords. But mind you, before everything, there are microchips, and it's the microchips which is making everything possible. And this book talks exactly about the microchips. It basically talks about the history of microchip making, the kind of revolution it brought in the world of information technology, and it talks about the future as well. Well, we all agree that United States is in a way a leading superpower when it comes to microchip production. However, it says that the tides are turning, and countries, especially China, are occupying center stage in microchips production. And no prizes for guessing that who will win this battle in AI and technology. Of course, those countries who have a command in making the microchips. So it is through the microchip they explained how the world of technology was, is, and is going to be in the future. So he sees a kind of conflict or immense competition between US and other countries when it comes to microchip production, and the consequence dominance the countries can exercise. One drawback, I won't even call drawback, but on the limitation of this book is that this book is very US centric. It looks things from the perspective of the United States, but here that's anyway the purpose of this book. So if you're looking for some very India specific information, well, it is not there in this book, but nonetheless it is very important to read this book to understand how the global information technology industry will play out in the next couple of years or decades. Bravehearts of Bharat by Vikram Sampath. Well, coming back to one of my favorite areas to read history, and about history, it is said that it is, and even Vikram mentions that it is written by winners. It's a handmaiden of the victors who write history their way, and no matter irrespective of the country, the society, this is how history has been told. And very often you look at history from a left wing or a right wing perspective. This is more important even in the context of India these days. But what this book actually tells you is that this book goes straight to the point. It talks about those personalities, those figures which shaped Indian history, and we probably have very, very less or limited information about. We all know some of the key freedom fighters, some of the key kings and all, but the people he talked about in this book, for example, he has talked about the Chand Bibi of Ahmednagar, the Lalitaditya Muktapida, king of Kashmir, Banda Singh Bahadur, Rani Naiki Devi, Martandya Verma of Travancore. Well, I'm sure a lot of us won't have even heard these names, but Vikram does exactly this, that he has delved deep into the lives of these people, and not only talks about these people in detail in this book, but also what impact they exactly had on India's history and how did their actions shaped India's history. Mind you, this is the history you will not get to read in a school or college textbook. So if you are actually looking for history as it was and not from the prism of some ideological lens, well, this is one book I strongly recommend. Well, another non-fiction book before I move into fiction books. So the new BJP by Nalin Mehta. So this is actually the first book I read in 2022, and yes, I liked it like anything. So this book talks about, as the title suggests, the new BJP. So when we talk about BJP, many of us link BJP only through Hindutva, or we talk about BJP's success, we link it to the charisma of Prime Minister Modi. Well, none of it. Of course, these are important factors, but as Nalin argues through strong case studies and data analytics, that the reasons behind the success or the electoral success of BJP. He uses a lot of data analytical tools, and through numbers he's proving his point that why the BJP wins elections after elections. And mind you, the answer lies somewhere else. The answer actually lies in inclusive politics and development politics. So he has taken Uttar Pradesh as a case study, wherein he mentions that how various government schemes have actually reached the real beneficiaries, how BJP is ensured to involve all caste, even the backward caste or Dalits, everyone into their fold, especially as is in the case of Uttar Pradesh, and how it has led to rise in the popularity of the BJP. So if you see this book in a way tells that the popularity, the real reason lies somewhere in the development politics which is being pursued. It also breaks some other myths about the BJP. So for example, he has analyzed in the meetings or in the lectures given by the prominent BJP leaders what words are used most frequently, and mind you, it is not Pakistan or Hindutva, but it's more related to, as I said, inclusivity and BJP's development plans. So this is a very marked departure from the usual impressions about BJP. I really loved reading this book because it not only talks about, but Nalin, instead of giving his own biases of views, he talks only what the numbers are telling you. So in that way, I would say, to understand the current political scenario in India, it is absolutely important to read this book. One thing which I liked in this book also, he talks about the future challenges of the BJP, like for example, what after Mr. Modi, once Prime Minister Modi resigns, whenever it happens, in no matter how many years, what will be the BJP's future after that. And then yes, of course, there's several other issues which are also at play, and he has dedicated a chapter to the future challenges of BJP. Another thing which I liked is on the economics of BJP, wherein we all actually look at BJP as a right-wing party which is keen on pursuing economic reforms and all, but as this book suggests, some will get a sense that BJP is actually, when it comes to economics, BJP is not a right-wing party but rather a leftist party, as this book's analysis suggests. So I think for all the readers, do read this book, not only to understand BJP but to understand the political scenario. Well, coming to fiction books, the first is Where the Sun Never Sets by Stuti Changle. So I did a separate review of this book as well. And first of all, this book is actually not exactly a novel. This book is actually a diary. Yes, this is a diary of the protagonist Iti, who relives her life through that diary, and it's basically a remembrance of her past. And I think the two strong emotions the book deals with is, first of all, loss, because it is mentioned that Iti did face had a family loss. Her parents and brother were killed in a car accident, and it also about reconciling with your past. So if you're looking at a book which wherein, and as many people do in real life as well, it takes you to your past, your all fond memories with the parents, your family, your friends, how that influenced you, how that shaped you as a person, and now that you are all alone, how do you actually reconcile with your past? Well, it may appear to be a very simplistic thing that, okay, reconciling the past, but when you actually read the book, you actually understand. And I'm sure anyone, no matter which country or which region or where you are from or at what stage of life you are from, I'm quite sure all of us would be able to relate something or to the other in this book, which is relatable to our lives. So if you are someone who likes likes talking about or thinking about your past, who likes to delve into memories, well, I strongly recommend this book. Out of all the fiction books I read, I must say I like this book the most. In fact, when I finished this book, I messaged Stuti, I'm done with your book, and mind you, this is your best work so far. She has authored 3 books so far, and undoubtedly this is the best. So one fiction book for this year which I strongly recommend. Magicians of Mazda by Ashwin Sanghi. Well, once again, no I will not be spending any time describing Ashwin. Sanghi is one of the best-selling authors in India. He writes fiction, and yes, this is his, I think, seventh or eighth book on fiction, and he always writes more adventurous fiction, and you can say many people actually call him in a way India's Dan Brown. So he writes in that genre, and this time he has come with Magicians of Mazda, and once again he has been able to successfully write something entirely different and very interesting. So this book is about the abduction of a scientist, an Indian origin scientist in US, who is on the breakthrough of a very powerful discovery which may help man can get rid of several diseases. And yes, this book actually delves deep into not just the medicine, but how did it came about. It came to be that medicine. How did it arrive at making that, and what history is involved in that. It takes you to the history of Zoroastrians, or as we say, Parsis. It delves deep into their histories. It brings out the various linkages between the Parsi culture and the Hindu culture. And the best part of this book is actually in describing about how past events, of what kind of things the doctor went through in getting the kind of the recipe or how to make that medicine. So it is that part which I like the most, and of course several comparisons and everything drawn between Parsis and Hindu culture. However, it is not about that, because Ashwin Sanghi is a thriller writer, and mind you, this book will keep you on the edge till the very end. Last is India's Most Haunted by K. Hari Kumar. Well, okay, I am a fan of horror writing, and I even had an interview with Hari in this channel itself. So, but yeah, this is why I'm adding this book, because this is the book I absolutely love reading. It has about 50 horror stories, and what Hari has done is that he has researched on the various places in India which are believed to be haunted, and he has made stories of out of all those 50 odd places of India. No wonder the title is India's Most Haunted. So some of the stories which I liked are, one is related to the Buradi mass suicide case. It's called the 11th one, and it is an absolutely scary story. So and which one is this? Perhaps my favorite. Another one is about 7 minutes in the mall, which is about a security guard who helps a person take the lift, but this security guard interestingly passed away a couple of years back. And then there's a story about a hitchhiker who supposedly is not there, but he gets into a car and takes a ride back home. So there are several stories makes you feel very scared. This story on Bhangad as well. I guess no horror talk in India can be complete without Bhangad. And there are stories related to the Parsi Towers of Silence, known as Dakhma. And so these are some of the stories which I like most. It has 50 stories on different aspects, different places of India, and all the stories are quite short. I think no story exceeds more than 10-12 pages. But if the purpose of horror is to make you feel scared, let me tell you, Hari is an expert in that. So if you are someone who actually feels scared, I would say don't read these books when alone or in night. So because some of the stories are absolutely scary, and honestly I love reading this book, and this is one horror book I recommend to everyone. Well, this is it. This is the list of the books I like reading the most in 2022. I'll come back again next year with another list of the books I'll be reading in 2023. Do share your feedback on how you like this video, and let me know if you want me to review any specific book. And before that, let me wish you a Merry Christmas and a very Happy New Year to all of you. Thank you.